Hey everybody, we're back with another video. I know, twice in a week. What is going on here? We're actually like a real YouTube channel. But we got our hands on another VR game that's been delisted in this series that we're calling, I don't know, Saving Dead VR Games. Part of our growing museum of gone VR content for those that have been following along. This is Bandit Six. Now, this is an earlier title, Oculus Go Gear VR title. And I believe it was later ported to the PSVR. But this one has been completely delisted from all platforms, which is why it's joining our museum. I do believe you can get it physically on a compilation, I heard, in certain markets on PSVR, but I'm not sure about that. So as you could tell by looking at it, this is a World War II sort of arcade simulation game. You're on the back of a bomber, and it's your job to take down fighters as they are coming to take down you. Now, this is a very simple game. It's not very intense. It's not very doesn't have a lot of depth to it. As you can kind of see, it's also a little bit choppy running here. It's not incredibly well optimized, and if it played the best, I assume it would play best on the Oculus Go, because I think that's what it was designed for, or the Gear VR, which is essentially the same platform. But it's a little bit choppy on my Go unit. You can see the black bars coming in. Now, your job is to just take on waves of fighters. That's it. They come at you from a couple different directions. You have this kind of 180-degree field of view. Once you meet the required targets of enemy kills, you move on to the next mission, and it's pretty simple, and you just repeat for a bunch of levels here. It's kind of laid out in the same way as a mobile game. Now, one of the interesting things that makes this one special, as you can see here, it does have an upgrade tree for your aircraft, for your abilities, and for your power. So you are encouraged to do better, get 3 stars, again, like a mobile game, in order to get more points so that you can upgrade your plane. If you just play it basically, you're gonna have a bad time. You're probably not gonna make it far. But as you can see, some of the locations tend to change night, day, but for the most part, everything is the same. When planes come at you, they kind of shake back and forth, probably like they would do in real life. But if there's more than one plane coming at you at the same time, they're kind of all shifting on the same plane. So there isn't a lot of depth. You're not going to get someone, you know, loop-de-looping or strafing from behind or anything like that. So let's look a little bit about this game if we go back. This was for the Oculus Go and Gear VR. As I said earlier, this was released in 2015. So this was one of the very early VR games. Now, in terms of time when it came out, I think this is pretty fun, especially when you realize that it was for the Gear VR. We're not talking about a really in-depth platform or a really wide platform back then. So that's okay. Now, this comes from Climax Studios. Now, Climax Studios is actually still around, and they've done some pretty interesting things and involved with. They've done stuff with like Crackdown 3, Dirt 2, Dragons. They've done a lot of licensed stuff, Adventure Time. They worked on the Adventure Time game. I believe I have that one. I think it's a PS3 title, maybe, if I remember. I'm not quite sure. But they are still around doing a whole bunch of stuff. They have a pretty long games list. I don't know if they're doing anything in VR, and of course, they don't list this game in it, but they go all the way back to like the PlayStation when they worked on the Diablo port for PS1, which is pretty dang cool. So they've done a whole bunch of stuff. But this is kind of the first foray into VR for them, one of the earlier titles. Now, we don't know why this was delisted. It's no longer available on the Oculus Go or Gear VR store, and it's no longer available on the PSVR store. But you might be able to find it, as I said earlier, on a pack of PSVR games on a disc. I can't be certain of that, but some comments have suggested that something like that did exist. I don't know if it was a paid for or a promotional thing or what. Now, when the reviews for this came around, people seemed to like it. And early on in these first couple of missions, it's kind of a boring affair. But as more stuff starts getting flung at you, as more action starts happening, because it's an arcade title, it gets a little more action-packed and a little more hectic. Now, control-wise, as you would imagine, you move your head to control where you are looking as you're rotating your little pod around. Fire is, of course, just the trigger button on the Oculus controller or the Go controller, whatever you have, the Gear VR. That's about it. One button, you're moving around. Now, in terms of movement in space, this one is one of the better titles to play in an office chair when you're sitting down. So something like Mummy VR, which we covered before, where it moves around for you when you're on a rails, sitting down feels weird. But something like this, if you just kind of threw it on for a couple of minutes in between another game or just having a relaxing time for a little arcade shoot 'em up, works really well. Now, gameplay, you just shoot. As you can see, you can overheat. On the left, it'll show your overheat. Never really had to worry about that. On the right side is your damage. We're going to take some damage, and we're going to go down here in a second. But there's also cargo planes that come by. And those cargo planes, if you shoot them down and you shoot the boxes that they drop, you'll get a power-up. And that power-up will help you stronger bullets, more armor, something along the lines. Essentially the same power-ups you can earn with points. You can earn them in-game here, and you can see we got defeated. So it does get a little bit tough, and it does encourage you to go back and play more of the levels you originally played so you can get more points to upgrade your ship and come back. So in that terms, if you like that sort of gameplay loop of playing and replaying to get a better score, I think this one's pretty fun in that regard. You're not going to be playing this for a couple hours, but this is one to pop in for a few minutes, and I think it's pretty fun. So if you want this one, Bandit 6 is now being added to our Internet Archive page, and hopefully in the future comes to our museum. So if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That'll really help us out and keeps us going. And until next time, we'll see you out there and have some fun in VR. See you guys.